Broadcast it out.
Okay, I'll just.
So I get these messages, live copy.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
And 9 times out of 10, there's a
Okay,
comp there.
let the record reflect that the meeting is reconvened with all members present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm filling in for Mayor Conley tonight. He's away on vacation, so I'm the pinch hitter, and that leads me right into that trophy you see over there. Madison and Chatham recently had their Mayor's Trophy game. We split. AAA, Chatham won, Majors, Madison won, and that's the trophy we received. So congratulations to all those players, and I watched them play. On my best day, I couldn't play half as good as any of them. Okay, a couple of things. I want to remind all Madison residents and residents in general that on June 30th, that's Monday, June 30th, from 5 o'clock to 9 p.m., there's going to be a fundraiser at the Madison Bowling Alley in support of Union Beach. So if you can, come, bowl some games. The funds will go towards supporting Union Beach. They still need a lot of help. Okay, and that's specifically for the campership program. Last year, we had a campership program there, and when we handed out the equipment, the look on those children's faces that they were going away to camp, you thought they were getting food that they hadn't eaten in months. It's a worthwhile cause, so please try to come and please spread the word. Okay. The mayor for his library report. The library celebrated the start of summer with the summer reading program. It kicked off last Saturday. So far, close to 300 children have joined to participate. A teen summer reading program is also underway, and that will be followed next week with an adult program. Okay, and I believe that's it from the mayor. Okay. And now for, I guess, the committee reports. Oh, minutes for approval. You'll correct me. Do I have a motion to move the executive minutes of June 9th, 2014?
I'll move them.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to move the regular minutes of June 9th, 2014?
I'll move them.
I'll second them.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Catalanello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, now reports from committees. Public Works and Engineering, Mr. Catalanello.
Thank you, Council President Landrigan. The 2014 Roads Improvement Program drainage work on Academy Road is pretty much complete. Curbing replacement and trench repairs will likely continue through the end of this week. Once sidewalks are replaced for the entire development, the contractor will schedule milling and paving rework. They also began on Vinton and Walker. There's a lot of activity over there, and I was able to walk the dogs. It's looking good. The Treadwell Pump Station, a gas main along Treadwell Ave to the sewer pump station for the emergency generator is being installed by PSE&G, and work is nearly complete. Topsoil and reseeding work will commence later this week. And the HVAC, regarding the library, the HVAC design is complete and bid specifications will be forwarded to the attorney for review in preparation for a fall bid. This work will include a bid alternate for ceiling and lighting repair currently being designed by consultant EI Associates. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Utilities, Mrs. Vitale.
Thank you very much. The electric department installed new poles and anchors at 80 Green Village Road. They installed a new anchor on Hoyt Street, transferred a new pole on Alexander Avenue, reconstructed a riser pole for Well B on Station Road, and they completed installation of an oil filtration systems for Bank 3B and 4B at James Park substations. And if all goes as planned, the units are going to be operational on Tuesday. They began installation of a breather systems for Banks 3A and 4A at James Park substations, And they wired and energized new lampposts on Prospect Street. They insulated primary voltage cables for crane operation at Keep Street and Prospect. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Ms. Bailey?
Yes, thank you. The Madison Fire Department recently hosted a basic trench rescue course. So 10 Madison firefighters, along with firefighters from Morristown and Florham Park, completed the 16-hour weekend course. The Madison Department of Public Works dug an 8-foot deep, 4-foot wide, and 40-foot long trench so the class could learn proper and safe rescue skills under true working conditions. And the fire department also participated in the Madison High School Day of Service. 10 high school students spent 5 hours helping at the firehouse and learning about fire safety. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Acting Mayor.
Whatever.
Whatever.
Whatever. Finance and Borough Clerk, Mr. Wolkowitz?
Thank you. I'd like to start off by telling you that we have been exploring the possibility of an advanced refinancing of a large portion of our outstanding debt maturing in 2028. We've been involved with our bond counsel on this. At this stage, we're not at the point of bringing it to the attention of the council for their opinion because we're not entirely convinced that it'll be financially advantageous, but work continues, and if indeed we get to that point, we should be bringing it to the council during the summer. If we do not, that means it wasn't worthwhile. Second item is, I want to remind you again that the filing deadline for the electric rebate program is September 1st. What we've discovered in the early days of this program is that letters are not necessarily the best way to contact people. Getting a more hands-on approach seems to be the way to go. To give you an indication of what I mean by that, Councilwoman Vitale hosted a group of approximately 50 people who were potentially eligible for this rebate. 25 of them signed up on the spot, with the remainder saying they would like to have further conversation with someone who's expert in this area to help them in filling out an application. So if you know of anyone, I will emphasize again, our summer interns are involved with this project, the ones who are in our clerk's office, and you should feel free to contact them and have them help you out with these forms. The third item I'd like to just mention in passing is a quick review of the numbers, actual versus budget. It's obviously not quite mid-year, but at the moment things are looking favorable. Rather than read out a whole host of numbers, I just leave you with that qualitative opinion. We're running by and large where we were last year, and it would appear that barring any unforeseen and costly emergency, we're in excellent shape. Strategic Planning Operations Committee wants everyone in Madison to help them come up with guidelines and proposals for the council on how we might modify the way we provide services to our residents. To that end, they've asked that you fill out a survey. The survey is online, and it can be found on the home page of RoseNet, where there'll be a link to the survey itself. You can do it online. If you prefer hard copy, we have hard copy just about everywhere. The clerk's office, the tax collector's office, the construction office, the utility billing office, and last but not least, right over there. So where it says, we need your help. So on the way out, if you would, take one, please complete it, get it back as soon as possible. We look forward to the results of the survey. And then one final note, congratulations, albeit on the sad side, to our tax collector friend, DeAngelis, who's been appointed CFO in Morris Township. We're conducting an expedited search to fill her position as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Community Affairs, Mr. Rowe?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. The Recreation Advisory Committee, I'd like to thank the Madison Basketball Association for its donation of 4 backboards and installation. We'll be voting on this later this evening. From the Downtown Development Commission, the DDC was awarded the Best New Sign Award by the Chamber of Commerce for their alleyway signs at the Chamber's annual gala. The award acknowledges the new custom signs the DDC made and installed in the alleys leading from the downtown area to various parking areas. The DDC is also moving forward with the August 16th Clam Bake. This is a family event designed to commemorate and celebrate the 125th anniversary of Madison's incorporation. They hope to make this an annual event. It will be held on a Saturday evening in August. The time is still to be determined, but it'll most likely be late afternoon and early evening. There'll be tables, food, live music, family-friendly activities, and they'll fill the train station Crescent
Is that 10 times fast?
with for the event. Finally, the Senior Center Advisory Committee, the new Volunteer Management Center, VMC, Telephone Reassurance Coordinator, has met with our volunteers who place calls to homebound seniors. An updated volunteer handbook and county resource guide were distributed. At this point, Madison is the only site running at full capacity with 11 volunteers and 19 clients. And finally, the 30th Annual Summer Seminar Series begins on July 7th. The Friends Groups of the Madison Senior Center and public libraries will be providing funding for the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, any communications and petitions?
Yes, Mayor, we received 2 communications, an email received June 12th from Bob Balasio of Knollwood Avenue regarding road repairs at Main and Central Avenues, and an email received June 20th from Ross Snyder of Candlewood Drive regarding abandoned bicycles at the train station.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, I'll open the meeting to the members of the public to discuss and ask any questions for items on the agenda or resolutions. I ask that when you come up, just sign in. Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the agenda discussions. Okay, the first one is the Luke Miller Forge roof replacement. Kathy?
Kathy, you want to come on up and, yeah. Kathy Coltis of the Parks Commission, before the Open Space Trust Fund Committee, requesting funds to replace the roof on Luke Miller Forge, which is a historic structure on Borough-owned parkland. The Open Space Committee recommends to the council that we approve the funding. It's the first part that's needed in order to completely restore the interior structure of the building. And if you do have questions, Kathy is here to answer.
Just a quick comment. The Historical Society was lucky enough to get 3 grants from the Historic Commission from the state of New Jersey. And in each one of their comments, after we did receive those grants, they said that they would really, really like to see the renovation of the Luke Miller Forge. So this is really in keeping with what they wanted. And we've been talking to Historical Society, Parks Committee, and Museum of Early Trades and Crafts, and we expect a partnership to do programs, that kind of thing. And so this is the first step, and the next step will be doing the interior, and we've already moved ahead with building permit and some plans for the building. So really appreciate the open space fund for this kind of thing. It's a perfect way to fund some of these things, and I really appreciate the foresight of the group of people who developed that in the first place. So anybody have any questions?
Questions? Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Astrid. Okay. Forward. Okay. Ordinances for hearing?
The ordinances scheduled for hearing were introduced by title and passed on first reading at a regular meeting of the council held on both May 28th and June 9th, 2014. They all were posted and filed according to law, and copies were made available to the general public requesting same.
Okay, I'll call ordinance 32-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Ordinance 34, 2013, appropriating $100,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the East Street parking lot to increase the appropriation from $100,000 to $120,000.
Okay, at this point, I'll open the hearing.
Mayor, I move, pardon me, Council President Landrigan, I move ordinance 32-2014. Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I opened it already.
Open it and close
I'm
it.
sorry, I opened it. I thought I did, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Carmel, do I have a second?
Close the
Yeah,
hearing.
but
I
we have
close
to
the
close
hearing.
it.
Now you
Okay.
can move it.
Okay. And I'll second.
Okay. Okay. It's moved in second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, I declare ordinance 32-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Move ordinance 33-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $150,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for sewer lining improvements.
Okay, I'll open the hearing. Seeing no comments, I'll close the hearing. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Council President Landrigan, I move ordinance 33-2014.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I move ordinance 33-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 34-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $75,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for emergent storm sewer construction on Madison Avenue between Lewanika Terrace and Vinyl Place.
Okay, I'll open the hearing. Seeing none, I'll close the hearing. Do I
I
have a
move
motion?
ordinance 34-2014.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, I declare ordinance 34-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 35-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $30,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for signalization improvements.
I open the hearing. I'll close the hearing.
I move ordinance 35-2014.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 35-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 36-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $200,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for milling and overlay of various roads, streets.
I open the hearing. Seeing no comments, I'll close it.
I move
Motion.
ordinance 36-2014.
I'll second.
Any council discussion? Call the vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 36-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 37-2014.
An ordinance authorizing the Borough of Madison and the County of Morris, New Jersey, to enter into a financial agreement with KRE Madison NJ Urban Renewal LLC for property located at 33 Green Village Road, designated as Block 3001, Lot 8.
Open the hearing. Seeing none, I'll close it.
I move ordinance 37-2014.
I'll second.
Council discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 37-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 38-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison adopting an amended redevelopment plan in accordance with NJSA 48:12A-7.
Open the hearing. Seeing none, I'll close it. I have a motion.
Council President Landrigan, I move ordinance 38-2014.
I'll second.
Council discussion? Vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 38-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Ordinance 39-2014.
Ordinance of the Borough of Madison amending Ordinance 10, 2014 concerning Section 185-29 of the Borough Code to prohibit parking on the south side of Burnett Road during school and sporting events at Madison High School.
I move ordinance 39-2014.
I second it.
Any council discussion? Okay, call the vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
I declare ordinance 39-2014 adopted and finally passed, and ask the clerk to publish notice thereof in the newspaper and file the ordinance in accordance with the law. Okay, at this point, it's the second invitation for discussion. At this time, residents can come up and talk about anything. Ask any questions they need. Okay, seeing none. Okay. Move on to introduction of the ordinances.
The ordinance scheduled for first reading has a hearing date set for Monday, July the 14th, 2014. It will be published in the Madison Eagle, posted on the bulletin board, and made available to members of the public requesting copies.
Okay, I call ordinance 40-2014 for first reading and ask the borough clerk to read said ordinance by title.
Ordinance 40, 2014, ordinance of the Borough of Madison appropriating $25,000 from the General Capital Improvement Fund for the purchase of 24 new self-contained breathing apparatus.
I move ordinance 40-2014.
I second it.
Any council discussion? Okay, seeing none, call the vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, move on to consent agenda resolutions.
Consent agenda resolutions will be enacted with a single motion. Any resolution requiring expenditure is supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any resolution requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda. All resolutions will be reflected in full in the minutes.
Council President Landrigan, I move R 187-2014 through R 211-2014 inclusive.
Second.
Okay, any discussion or any requiring removal? Okay, call the vote, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
I abstain from R207 and yes to the rest.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
Okay, I don't believe there's any unfinished business.
So with that, I make a motion that we
Wait,
adjourn.
Vouchers,
Gotta
vouchers.
pay the vouchers.
Vouchers.
He really wants to go home tonight.
Okay, approval of the vouchers.
I'll read the totals. Okay, for public safety, we have $11,648.41. Health and public assistance, $1,442.99. Public Works and Engineering, $163,832.86. Community Affairs, $6,298.27. Finance and Borough Clerk, $159,636.41. And Utilities, $1,431,346.26. Total is $1,774,205.20.
I guess I move vouchers. I move vouchers.
I'll
Never had to do it
second.
before.
A second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Catalonello?
Yes.
Mr. Landrigan?
Yes.
Mrs. Vitale?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wolkowitz?
Yes.
Mr. Rowe?
Yes.
And being that there's no new business,
Now I make the motion that we adjourn for the evening.
thank you.
Holy.
Almost as good as 30 meeting.
DVR.
Right?
Yeah.
You might get to be mayor all the time.
I was going to say.
I just have, we have to do our fiduciary responsibility here.
Even
We haven't decided.